This is a Glassbox Media podcast.
Hi, human. Welcome to the God Pod. I'm God, and like Jesus, I'm hanging in there.
If you like interviews with the most interesting people alive or dead, then you'll love the God Pod.
Here's me talking to Mary Trump about her crazy uncle.
I knew he was going to be disastrous.
And here's me debating a real live atheist.
You really cannot make the case that this is a good book.
I discuss all the latest current events down on Earth.
Find the God Pod wherever you get podcasts.
The God Pod. Have it, Yahweh.
Let's face it, money is the one subject we all need to deal with, but no one actually wants to talk about. The good news is there's a podcast helping you learn everything about money no one taught you. Meet Everyone's Talkin' Money, hosted by me, Shauna Game. Everyone's Talkin' Money focuses on relevant, inclusive, and forward-thinking conversations around money and just helps you get in a better relationship with your money no matter what your goals are. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to Everyone's Talkin' Money podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Today, listener, we will find out if you're a hero or a villain, but let me introduce you to the show. Welcome to episode number 228 of Tennis Podcast, brought to you by Glassbox Media. I'm Nick Man, or Super Nick, whichever you prefer. I'm host of the show. My superpower is that every week I'm joined by a guest sidekick host, and together we count down a top 10-ish list in real time, along with research, trivia, and villainous hot takes. And today I'm joined by the Joker to my Batman, Dr. Buster.
Your superpower is consistently getting people's hopes up before swiftly letting them severely down.
That would be a legitimate superpower if the same person could repeatedly have their hopes risen by my words and repeatedly return to have their hopes dashed. That is a superpower.
You know, it happens every election cycle. People actually think that something's going to be different after the winner is declared, and some percentage of the population gets their hopes stirred up, and they find out, oh, it's just the same bullshit again.
Why are you trying to depress me and the listeners in the first 30 seconds of this show, Buster?
Well, you keep having me back, so...
It's true, and that is depressing all on its own. Buster, what's new? What's the latest? What's the hubbub?
I don't know.
Okay.
What am I supposed to include on this?
You're supposed to say,
what's new?
I bought a new car. I tried a new sandwich for the first time. I went and saw this movie.
The people who listen to Tennis don't care about what's going on in my life.
You're right. Fuck, you're right. And you know what? I don't care about what's going on in your life. I was trying to be polite.
Before you even ask the question, you don't give a shit. So that's why I don't give an answer.
True.
But whether I give you a 1 second or a 1 hour long answer, you're already sitting there just begging for me to be done talking.
A 1 hour long answer? Can you imagine if I said, hey, Buster, what's new? And you talked for the next hour?
Have you talked to some of my extended family? That's exactly what happens.
I have talked to them.
I'm involved in the local Rotary Club, and while I do love it, something that bothers me about some fellow Rotarians who may or may not happen to be of an older generation is they will ask you a question, and as you're answering what they asked you, they'll interrupt you to just start talking about their day. And, oh, you know, that reminds me. And I'm like a quarter of the way through my explanation, and I just start talking.
Well, to be fair, your explanation is an hour long, so you're 25 minutes into a 1 hour explanation. So it's hard to blame them for interrupting.
All right, Nick, what's new with you?
What's new is I did a lot of research on a topic that you are interested in, and that is comic books. Buster, what's your relationship with...
Sexual.
Sexual? Okay.
Yes. Comic books.
Comic books.
In my mid-20s, I went through a several-year spree where I read a lot of the graphic novels. I tended to try to buy the collected series. Yep, here we go. So that's what I did. For several years, I've got 2 full rows of a bookshelf of all my graphic novels that I went through.
We're all very impressed. Wow.
But I'd say in the last 5-6 years, I definitely haven't bought a new one. And now I only reread the classics and my favorites. I'm out of the game, so to speak.
Who is your favorite?
Who is my favorite? Batman. By far.
Who is your favorite villain?
The Joker.
Okay.
Now,
I knew that already, but I wanted to hear it.
Is that a selection bias? Because that's the villain I'm the most familiar with? Probably so. It's hard to disentangle. Also, it'd be helpful to know that my favorite movie of all time is The Dark Knight with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger from 2008.
Did you misspeak? I think you meant Superman versus Batman featuring Ben Affleck as Batman. Well, I ask you this today because you know a lot about comics. And our listeners, even if they don't read comic books, like myself, I've never read a comic book in my life. But because of pop culture and movies and everything else, we're all very familiar with some of the more famous, well-known heroes and villains. Buster, today you're going to guess the top 10 best comic book villains of all time. This ranking is based on a Ranker poll as of July 2023, where voters were asked who is the best comic villain of all time. Over 18,000 people worldwide submitted over 442,000 votes.
18,000 people showed up for the best comic villain, but that many people in the state of New Hampshire may not have voted in the last election.
Okay, so what's your problem with New Hampshire?
Okay.
No, tell us, we got time.
Nope. All good.
All right. Shout out to our listeners in New Hampshire. I also pulled some stats from IGN, Screen Rant, CriticalHit.net, Wikipedia, of course. Buster, the best comic book villains of all time.
Okay, so this is a Ranker opinion-based poll for the best, whatever that means.
Yes. The intro to that poll said, every great protagonist needs a worthy antagonist to balance things out after all. Several of the top supervillains listed here began their evil careers in comic books, but they quickly took their evil deeds to the big screen, starring in some of the best superhero movies ever made. So you can kind of blend comics versus film on this, but Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, that's still a comic villain, even if it's on the big screen.
Right. Yeah, it has to have been in the comics. It can't just be made up by the movies, but I don't think that really happens because I feel like a lot of the movies and shows are heavily, heavily based on all of the pre-existing comic books.
Fuck, I didn't realize I was talking to a fucking movie and TV show expert. Fucking analyst at, I don't know, pick your media outlet.
ESPN.
Sure. Buster, I don't know about you, but growing up, again, I did not read comics, but just in life, movies, TV shows, things like that, I usually found myself rooting for the villain. I always liked Darth Vader more than Luke Skywalker, for example. Do you find yourself in that camp?
Not always. I'm going to get into another point later into the show, I'm sure.
Is it going to take an hour to explain?
My short answer is not always, but sometimes, especially if that villain doesn't have the worst incentives or the worst reason for doing so. I mean, so many of these villains, they have terrible backstories.
Oh, yeah.
Like the world literally fucks them over, and you feel bad for them. Of course, you don't want to sanction and pardon murder on a mass scale.
Speak for yourself.
But you also feel bad.
Is there an example of a villain that comes to mind with that kind of dynamic?
Well, depending on which origin story of the Joker you're talking about, the Batman villain, there are several that include him being completely ostracized, teased, bullied his whole life, and then an accident scars his face, kind of gives him a little bit of a even further cynical view on the world, and kickstarts you off down a pretty awful path, especially when you acquire some power and influence.
Before you know it, you're being portrayed by Jared Leto. Fucking idiot. I remember being 5, watching The Lion King and rooting for Scar.
Now, see, why is this?
I don't know.
What is it about these villains, the bad boys, that turn you on, frankly?
I think it's what you said. They're more interesting. They seem cooler. It's not the kind of bland, every hero kind of feels the same sometimes. The villain has more layers.
Sure, yeah.
In kids' movies, anyway.
They can be a little
in comics,
nuanced.
I don't know.
Although many of the comics, again, when you reach towards the more critically acclaimed side of the industry, you get heroes who aren't all good either. They've made some tough mistakes. They have anger issues, or, they have aspects of their comic book hero personality that aren't all redeeming.
What about their butts? Their butts redeeming?
If you've ever looked through some comic book illustrations, you'll know comic book characters, they all got 10 out of 10 big old juicy asses.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the one thing I never liked about comics is the extremely unrealistic body expectations. I mean, there were muscles bulging out that didn't even exist. That got old to me after a while.
Well, speaking of 10 out of 10 bootylicious butts, Buster, which 10 out of 10 bootylicious butt belonging to a villain do you think makes his way into the top 10? His or her way, although they are all he.
They are all men?
Yeah.
Wow, so is this kind of a subtle way of you saying that you hate women, or?
I did not make the list, but I am looking at the list, and the highest ranking female villain is number 20, which is Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is a dreaded villain in my own life. Good God.
I was going to say, I've gotten Poison Ivy a few times lately because there's some in my backyard, and that's my number one villain, I think.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
No. Give me a guess here.
All right, I'm going to guess this guy because he's become really popular in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as of late, and I'm going to guess Thanos from the Marvel Universe.
Thanos is number 5.
Oh, knew it.
He's from the Marvel Universe. His first appearance was in 1973 in Iron Man number 55. His superhero nemesis is, well, berries.
It's like every Avenger.
Yeah. Thanos is an eternal, deviant warlord from the Moon Titan. I'm sorry. It's just so fucking stupid.
You can't get through the description without laughing?
I mean, I know like when you're reading it or watching it on the big screen, it probably seems cool, but like when you just read it, it's fucking stupid. An eternal, deviant warlord from the Moon Titan, Thanos is regarded as one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. He is classed with many heroes, including the Avengers, the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Fantastic Four, the Eternals, and the X-Men. He has the power of telekinesis and matter manipulation, has superhuman intellect. He can master any technology, time travel, and even teleport, and he also looks like a gorilla. Buster, in looking through these villains to compile this list and compile hashtag Nick's notes, I noticed there are hundreds, maybe thousands of superhero villains. And to that, I gotta say, how the fuck is the world still standing? How are these cities still standing when there's these like massive epic battles happening all over between... This guy has telekinesis and shit. Explain it to me, Buster. Make it make sense.
They don't even come close with the current Marvel Cinematic Universe of painting just how chaotic and scary Earth would be if you were in the Marvel Universe. But there are
Earth is just a normal place in that
thousands of heroes and thousands of villains constantly at war with one another. Earth caught in the crossfire. I don't know about you, but I'd be terrified. I would say I'd be terrified to go outside my door. I'd be terrified to exist, period. Staying in your house isn't going to protect you if Thanos can just blink half of every person who's ever existed out of existence when he snaps his fingers with a magical 5-stone glove.
Spoiler, whoa, Buster.
Okay, that movie is old, so...
It's actually in my notes as well.
I feel like if you lived in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where shit is just popping off, life would be... you'd feel so helpless. You're living around a bunch of demigods who are capable of killing you, even accidentally.
These people are not having hand-to-hand combat. They're having, like, throw a building across the city to hit Thanos combat. Like, all the time, everywhere.
They may not have even known your name, and you're just trying to get an extra cup of coffee because you didn't sleep well the night before, and a fucking 100-story building crushes you in the middle of one of their fights.
Every one of those fight scenes, the city's, like, demolished.
It takes 6 generations of thousands of humans, billions of tax dollars to fix what was destroyed in about 15 fucking minutes. It's just
6 generations, Buster. That's a lot.
If all of Manhattan was flattened in an intergalactic alien war, you think about how long it would take to clean that up.
Well, that just happens every movie. Yeah, it would take a lot to clean up. I mean, these superheroes, they should really take their battles elsewhere. When the villain comes to Manhattan, the superhero needs to find a way to take that battle, like, somewhere where no one lives.
In the middle of the Rocky Mountains.
There you go.
But then Stan up there in his cabin, he's like, hell yeah, brother, I'm getting out to my cabin in the middle of the Rockies for my 2-week vacation I take every fall. It's the only time of year I get any relief from the pressures of my life. And then these superhuman beings start duking it out in the sky above his cabin.
Hey, free show, I say.
And then they all have sex.
They do have sex.
There are some very inappropriate scenes in some of the comic books, especially when you get into Catwoman, like Off the Beaten Path Catwoman series.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, it's too much.
Too much, Buster, and it's never too much. Are you a prude?
Well, sorry if this is a little offensive, but I always have to contrast what the people who are having sex in the sex scene of a comic book look like compared to the people who drew the pictures. I guarantee they're not the same.
You know that really popular gif of like the overweight guy with glasses in South Park on his computer?
Mm-hmm.
That's who's drawing these sex scenes in these comic books.
as he draws Catwoman with 300 bulging muscles. And she's like, oh, please, Batman. And he's just sitting there, hands deep inside a family-sized bag of Takis as he finishes up his drawings.
Doggies. Buster, you're throwing some major stones today. This is a hot take.
Hot takes.
Well, Thanos, his best-known storyline is the Infinity Gauntlet, written in 1991, the culmination of several story arcs that see him gather the 6 Infinity Gems and use them to kill half of the universe's population, including many of its heroes. He does this to woo Mistress Death, the living embodiment of death in the Marvel Universe. Although these events were later undone, which, this is my note, what the fuck is the point of any of it then?
Yeah, what's the point of a 3-year build-up if you can just undo it?
Josh Brolin plays Thanos in most of the movies, although Damian Poitier first played him in the 2012 Avengers film. I've talked many times on the show how I suffered superhero movie fatigue long ago. I saw pretty much all of them until the last one I saw was the Avengers in 2012, over 10 years ago now. One of the main reasons I stopped is because of what we were saying, like all this bad shit can happen, cities can be destroyed, they make you think the hero is going to die at one point, and then it never happens. Heroes always win in the end, every time, and I need more variety than that, fam.
Yeah, it's just, I need more unpredictability. That's why a lot of people enjoyed the first 2/3 of Game of Thrones, because it was more realistic in that regard.
For sure. That's a great point, because I remember complaining in the second half of the series that they haven't killed an important character. And so, I don't know if spoilers or what, but in the first few seasons, a lot of crucial characters that you think is the main character die. And in the second half of the show, they really pull back on that.
Yeah.
But we don't need to get into a whole Game of Thrones thing here. Instead, you should give me another guess for a supervillain.
All right, another supervillain. I'm going over into the world of Spider-Man, and I'm going to guess Doc Ock, Dr. Octopus.
I thought he'd be here as well, but he's number 13.
Okay, just outside the top 10. That's acceptable. Let's jump over to Batman and guess Killer Croc. He may not make the top 10, I don't think.
He's not even in the top 20.
All right, what about Venom from Spider-Man?
Venom is number 7 in the top 10.
Number 7.
He is from Marvel as well. At the end of this, we'll see if there's more Marvel or DC villains on this list. First appearance was in The Amazing Spider-Man, number 299 in 1988.
Wow, that's pretty late.
Superhero nemesis, Spider-Man. Yeah, they're actually, I was surprised, all but 3 or 4 of these were 80s or later. Spider-Man's dark, violent, and murderous counterpart, Venom, came to be when Eddie Brock, a reporter with a vendetta against Spider-Man, found the alien symbiote costume Spider-Man had picked up during Secret Wars, only to discover it when he discovered its true nature. Spider-Man, you fucking idiot. If you know this thing's dangerous, why do you just throw it away where someone with a vendetta against you can find it? With his hulking physique and monstrous alien-like mouth, complete with fangs and a drooling tongue,
oh, baby.
Venom, who has all of Peter Parker's powers, is like a distorted and scary funhouse mirror version of the black costumed Spider-Man, and his knowledge of Peter's secret identity allowed him to target his enemy in particularly cruel and dangerous ways. I never knew this. Venom is also depicted as having spawned several children, most notably one of the other villains on this top 10 list that I will not divulge.
Okay.
I have more on Venom, but let me pause. What are your thoughts on Venom, Dr. Buster?
Always thought Venom looked so cool. I know that there's been a reinterpretation of Venom recently, and I can't remember the actor's name who played him, so I'm not sure.
Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy. I'm not sure what angle they took on Venom these days, but it always seemed like a really cool idea. It's kind of like antithesis to Spider-Man, an evil Spider-Man, if you will.
Yeah, and he has had a resurgence lately because of the movies. Tom Hardy plays him now. In the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, the third one, Topher Grace played him in a really laughable role. Venom's popularity was huge out of the gate. He's now one of the most notable and iconic Spider-Man villains ever. That's Venom. I'm kind of iffy on him. Granted, I haven't seen, the Tom Hardy movies, so maybe I'd change my mind, but he just seems kind of, I don't know, the tongue is just a little much for me, He's like an interstellar goo that took over a person, right? How does he puts on a costume and all of a sudden his genetic makeup changes to where his tongue can grow 10 times its size? I don't know.
Well, let's not forget that Spider-Man was just bit by a spider. Last time I got bit by a spider, it itched and hurt a little bit. I didn't get fucking superpowers, and he can shoot webs out of his forearms and sling around New York City like...
This is a radioactive spider from a laboratory, Buster.
Allegedly.
So you like Batman. I think one of the reasons you like Batman is because he's not over the top ridiculous with overpowered powers, right?
Yes. Many people hate Batman because he doesn't have any superpowers, and that's precisely why I like him. It's more grounded in reality.
I like that too, with the caveat being that, I don't know. How does he survive all this shit and he has a fucking bat cave and all these gadgets that he's suddenly like a scientist that can build all these gadgets from scratch and I don't know.
Yeah, but by no means is it realistic. It's just further from the truth. Or what's possible for humans today.
What I'm hearing is you think Batman is based on a true story.
But think about it. If you showed somebody from 1650 an iPhone, they also would think that that was ridiculous, impossible, far-fetched, never going to happen, voodoo magic. And many of the contraptions that Batman or Iron Man would have, we think, yeah, that's never going to happen. Who knows in 200 years what we're going to have.
Point taken, but Batman is building this shit by himself. Underground.
He has guys helping him out. I'm trying to think of what his name is. It's not Lucius, is it?
Oh, that guy.
Lucius Fox. Yeah. Lucius Fox is like his scientist, researcher, tech guy.
We all need a Lucius Fox in our life.
Some of us need Lucifer in our life.
Ding gong la xin da la dong ma la. I just became demon possessed right as you said that. Hello, listener. Nick here. I am so excited about our next sponsor because it's been a real game changer for me this year. It's HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. I have tried other meal kit services, but HelloFresh has been my favorite by far. I wish I had tried it even sooner. Summer is the perfect time to try HelloFresh. From chef-crafted seasonal recipes to their new fresh and fit summer menu, HelloFresh brings flavor right to your door. If you're like me, after a long day, the last thing I want to do is cook. So me and my family got in the habit of ordering takeout food way more than we should. But like I said at the start, HelloFresh has been a game changer for us. When you need dinner fast, don't call for delivery. Just think HelloFresh. Their fast and fresh recipes are ready in just 15 minutes or less. Plus, HelloFresh is 25% cheaper than takeout. Don't be like me and put off trying something as good as this for too long. It's time to try HelloFresh for yourself. And the best part is HelloFresh has a special offer just for cute little 10ish podcast listeners like you. Go to HelloFresh.com/10ish50 and use code 10ish50 for 50% off plus free shipping. What? That's HelloFresh.com/10ish50 or just click the link in the show notes. And don't forget to use the code 10ish50 for 50% off plus free shipping. Listener, are you ready to live your best life? I got you, fam. If you've listened to 10ish Podcast for a while, you know that I am a big fan of AG1. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers comprehensive nutrients for whole body health. AG1 is great bang for my buck and my butt, as it replaces a lot of other supplements like daily multivitamin, minerals, pre- and probiotics for my gut health, adaptogens, and a greens blend, literally all in just one scoop of powder. Did I mention it's delicious too? I take it every morning and it has completely changed the way I feel and operate every single day. Just one daily serving supports energy, focus, strength, and clarity with 75 high-quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. Seriously, I cannot think of another daily routine that pays off as well as AG1, which is why I trust the product so much and use it every day. Now I need you to feel the way I feel. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/10ish. That's drinkag1.com/10ish. Check it out. Link is also in the show notes.
On August 23rd, the summer event Ahsoka arrives on Disney+. Witness the thrilling adventure of former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano as she uncovers a disturbing new threat to the galaxy far, far away. Don't miss the 2-episode premiere event of the highly anticipated Star Wars series, Ahsoka, streaming August 23rd, only on Disney+.
All right, Bub, you got Venom at 7, Thanos at 5.
Let's stick with this Venom child you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I only know of one other Spider-Man villain that is Spider-Man-esque, and that's Carnage.
Yeah. Carnage is number 10.
Oh.
I think we've done only Marvel villains so far. His first appearance was in 1992's The Amazing Spider-Man number 360. He's a nemesis to Spider-Man, but also Venom. So Carnage belongs to a race of amorphous, parasitic, extraterrestrial organisms known as symbiotes, which form a symbiotic bond with their host and give them superhuman abilities.
Also known as my cousin.
What? A symbiote?
A person who's a symbiotic life form that's a parasite.
Parasite, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. After getting put in prison for being a serial killer, Cletus Cassidy, that's the serial killer, his cellmate ends up being Eddie Brock, who later becomes Venom. Now, Brock's Venom symbiote has a baby since they can produce asexually. Oh, baby.
Damn, Jailhouse Rock.
And bonds with Cassidy through a cut. So Cassidy has a cut, and this Venom symbiote baby that was produced asexually infects the cut, and that's how he becomes Carnage. That helps him escape prison. So Carnage is way OP'd.
I would say that's so silly, but that is absolutely within the realm of Greek mythology. To plug a recent episode.
Not just Greek mythology, but how about just religion? Like the shit that happens in the Bible is more ridiculous than that at times. But hey, for more on that, listen to our 10 Commandments episode or our Greek mythology episode, which were not that long ago.
Wait, is God one of the comic book villains on here?
Fucking should be. Now that's a comic book.
He'd rank pretty high.
There were some Jesus comic books, I want to say, where Jesus is a superhero, right?
I was just about to say, 100% they've created comic book and graphic novel versions of the Bible.
Jesus was like the original superhero.
Well, that's true.
Really? Mm-hmm.
And Satan was the original superhero villain.
Supervillain, yeah.
They're still duking it out.
Makes you think,
and all of us are caught in the crossfire, exactly like we opened the episode with.
Carnage is OP. He can shapeshift, create weapons like knives and axes with its web substance. I mean, that's code word for cum, right? Let's be honest. And he can also...
Can you imagine the home defense capabilities if you just jizz on the floor real fast and then you've got like an axe or a bat or a really long machete? But the hard part of that is while a home invasion is occurring, you're adrenaline filled, you're nervous, someone's downstairs, they're rummaging through your shit, and you know they could be coming upstairs at any moment. You got to get yourself hard, and you've got to get yourself to completion in time. You're like, oh God, I'm so scared, but I got to get this out of me so I can have a knife.
Some people that would help, I think.
Well, that's true. They'd be turned on by it.
Do you think when the jizz hits the floor, because I'm imagining a person standing up and jerking off onto the floor. Do you think it hits the floor and is instantly a weapon? Or do you think he has to like pick it up and kind of mold it a little bit?
I think as he like picks up the sticky substance, it starts to shapeshift.
Yeah.
And grow.
Okay. Oh, man.
Anyway, that's Carnage, everyone.
Yeah. But he can also plant ideas in your head, Buster. So maybe when Carnage is coming to get you, and you're thinking of cranking one out to combat him with your jizz knife or jizz battle axe, he plants an idea in your head that you can only think about, dudes' butts, so you can't get hard.
He makes you think of Tinnish Podcast, and then it's an immediate, nope, 180, you're not going to be able to...
Your dick shrivels up.
Yeah.
No, I get it. So Carnage can also crawl like Spider-Man and regenerate, and is immune to infection and disease. So I don't know how you're killing this guy. I never knew this. Carnage can see from any part of his body. So that means he points his big toe in that direction and he can see over there. He points his fucking winky in that direction and he can see over there. He points his butt in that direction, he can see over there.
Well, then why does he have eyes?
That's a good question. But Buster, if you could see from everywhere, including your butt cheeks, you couldn't booty clap anymore.
Okay, a couple of things. One, I'm looking at pictures of Carnage. First of all, this character is terrifying. I don't know if you're going to have show notes for this episode, but holy shit.
Sure, I'll put images in the show notes for every villain we discuss.
Carnage is terrifying. Second of all, you need look no further for the exaggerated muscle tone I was talking about from before. I mean, The human body doesn't even have that many muscles on it. It's ridiculous. If somebody was that ripped, they were going to be taking their last breath in 10 seconds because they're dehydrated and they're passing out.
Buster. But he's an alien.
Well, that's true. You got
He's
me
an
there.
alien. Although he wraps him, or he, becomes a parasite to a person.
Yeah, the argument would be like he turbocharges that human being, and that's how he's able to look that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, Cassidy is the guy that wears the Carnage suit. So Carnage, basically, he writes Carnage rules on the walls with his own blood.
Yeah,
for every
Carnage
murder.
rules, man.
It sounds like Billy Madison. Doyle rules. Carnage is so powerful that Spider-Man has to make a truce with his arch nemesis Venom just to fight him. And of course, there was the movie, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, of Venom Let There Be Carnage. Carnage was voiced by Woody Harrelson, which, I don't know, odd casting to me.
Oh, that was a sequel?
Yeah, there was a Venom movie with Tom Hardy, and then the sequel, which was Venom Let There Be Carnage, came out very recently.
Wow, I didn't even hear about that. They did not do a good job of marketing that.
Okay. Shots fired at the marketing team for Marvel. Anyone else you want to shit on real quick?
Well, why don't we shit on our next supervillain?
Okay. Give me a DC guess.
DC guess. I'm going to guess this guy, even though it's Superman's #1 big baddie. But I also don't think anyone from the Superman universe gets talked about or is that well respected for many reasons. So I'm going to guess Lex Luthor.
Really surprising to me to see this bald sumbitch not make the top 10, but he did not. He's number 11.
Good. Get him out of here.
There is a Superman villain.
Okay.
In the top 10.
I'm not as familiar with Superman. Do you have any hints?
Tell me if this helps. He is a new god and the tyrannical lord of Apocalypse, Apocalypse being a place, who's regarded as one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe. He's also the father of Calabac, Orion, Graven, and Grail, and serves as one of Superman's greatest adversaries.
Is it Galactus?
Is that a real
I don't know.
person? It's Darkseid.
He's dark-sided.
Dark-sided.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff. He is dark-sided too.
But Darkseid is spelled dark, S-E-I-D.
Oh.
So it's like Darkseid.
He's alternative, bro.
Yeah.
He won't spell his name like you need him to.
No, he's a rebel. Well, and he's got to be fighting Superman's ass. He is one of the oldest...
The whitest, most vanilla superhero that has ever existed.
Buster, God damn it. Superman...
is boring. God.
Okay, but you're looking at it through today's eyes.
Everybody else that we want to create to be a superhero for little kids to look up to, how many powers should we give them? Just one? No, give them every power in the fucking playbook. That'll be good. That won't be cheap at all.
Buster, he is
Hold
from
on.
another planet.
What number is Darkseid?
4.
4?
You got a hearing problem?
What superhero fan would even know about Darkseid off the top of their head? And he goes all the way to number 4?
Do you want me to tell you about him, or do you want to keep bitching about Superman, who was born in the 30s, and superheroes was a new concept at that time? Give him some slack.
Look.
If you're writing the first comic book ever, and you have the imagination to make any superhero you want, of course you're going to give him every power you can think of.
I'm not taking the excuse.
He's a product of his time. Darkseid is first appeared in 1970 Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, number 134. That's the name of the comic. I don't know. So I told you he's a Darkseid and tyrannical lord of Apocalypse.
He's dark-sided.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff.
His ultimate goal is to enslave the multiverse by eliminating all hope and free will. Why is that a goal? I don't know.
Nobody would actually think that way.
No, they wouldn't.
Because many villains think they're doing the right thing.
Exactly. Or not Joker. Joker just wants to be chaotic and all that, I guess.
He's doing it for the lulz, for the yucks.
Yeah.
He wants to have fun.
But nobody's goal is to enslave the multiverse by eliminating all hope and free will. That's like on his PowerPoint presentation of why he's a supervillain. But he is perhaps his most appealing trait is his lack of interest in direct physical confrontation. Darkseid has immense strength, endurance, and eye beams that can disintegrate, teleport, or torture opponents, yet he instead chooses to manipulate events from the shadows, allowing his minions to act on his behalf. Now that's something kind of cool, right?
Sure, yeah. He's more of a behind-the-scenes Wizard of Oz kind of guy?
He uses manipulation, intellect, planning, even though he has these powers. And I don't know. I mean, if you got I-beams that can disintegrate and teleport and torture, maybe just use those. But
my ex-girlfriend, am I right?
That's my joke.
Well, you didn't make it, so I did.
Creator Jack Kirby modeled Darkseid's face on actor Jack Palance and based his personality on Adolf Hitler and Richard Nixon. Listeners of the show.
But see, even Hitler kind of thought he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Extremely evil, misguided, terrible human being. But even he's not as, like, what do I want to say? Blatantly simple as Darkseid.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, Darkseid has been in movies and shit. He was in the 2021 DC Extended Universe in the Justice League, portrayed by Ray Porter.
Which, like, 8 people saw that movie.
All right, so you got number 10, Carnage, 7, Venom, 5, Thanos, and 4, Darkseid. What else you got? Oh, by the way, you guessed Galactus at one point.
Uh-huh.
That's number 15. I'm seeing that now.
How about the Green Goblin from Spider-Man?
14.
Really? Didn't make the top 10.
No, there are no Spider-Man villains in the top 10 besides Venom and Carnage.
That's surprising to me. I feel like Spider-Man's pretty loved. What about Loki from Thor?
Loki, I'm not a fan. I saw the first Thor movie and the Avengers, and I thought Loki was kind of eh. But I know people love him because they love Tom Hiddleston. Loki's number 6.
Number 6.
He's from the Marvel Universe.
My least favorite thing about Loki is his helmet. He's like a green beetle.
Looks so stupid. The character first appeared in Venus number 6 from August 1949. I think that's the oldest on here. Like even the Joker. No, Joker's older. But other than Joker, he's the oldest one on here. 1949. Although the characterization that has persisted to the modern day, so the kind of the Loki we all recognize today, he didn't debut until 1962 in Journey into Mystery number 85, Buster, obviously. He is the arch nemesis of Thor. The character is based on the Norse deity of the same name. He is the Asgardian god of mischief, the adopted son of Odin, and the adopted brother of the superhero Thor. He is the villain that caused the creation of the Avengers, so we have them to thank for 45 Marvel movies. Throughout his childhood and into adolescence, Loki was resentful of the differences between how Thor and himself were treated by the citizens of Asgard. So again,
see, here we're talking about a better crafted villain.
Yeah, he has relatable motive.
And now, what year did Loki first originate?
1949, but the modern version of Loki in 1962.
See, 49, 62? This is why I'm not buying your sign of the times argument for Superman. I mean, that's so long ago, and yet this guy's more intricate.
True, but Superman was the first. There's no blueprint of a superhero or a villain.
Sure.
When Superman was created.
One thing I really like about Loki is he will have a change of heart and do something good, but then do something bad right after it. He's not all good, all bad. He can change his mind. And the relationship that he and Thor are ongoing, and Thor always forgives him, always tries to bring him back over again. Loki always screws him over, but will also do good things at the same time. It's just really neat. It's very nuanced, their relationship.
Meanwhile, as nuanced as that is, they are two Asgardian gods, that one carries a giant hammer that makes thunder and lightning, and the other, I don't know what Loki's power is, but
all sorts of business.
The Asgardians valued great strength, tenacity, and bravery in battle above all things, and Loki was clearly inferior to his brother Thor in those areas. What he lacked in size and strength, however, he made up for in power, skill, particularly as a sorcerer, and as I mentioned, he is played by Tom Hiddleston in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Loki. And I'd like you to Loki over this list because you got 5 out of 10.
Well, I low-key am killing it. I've got every one of my guesses correctly
Oh, really? Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Lex Luthor, Galactus?
I've known every guess was going to be right as I said it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see. What about Two-Face from Batman?
Yeah, he's not in the top 10.
Harvey Dent.
Not the top 20.
Not the top 20?
I said what I said.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, take it up with the 18,000 voters at ranker.com.
Oh, well, I'm going to start calling each and every one of them and asking what the problem is.
And each and every one you'll take an hour explaining.
What about Silver Surfer? Probably not on there, but I want to guess it.
No, probably because he's lame as hell and he's not in the top 20.
What about Magneto from the X-Men?
Okay, Magneto is number 2.
Magneto is number 2.
He's from the Marvel Universe. 1963 was his first appearance in the Uncanny X-Men number 1, which I would assume is the first X-Men comic. The character is a powerful mutant, one of a fictional subspecies of humanity born with superhuman abilities who has the ability to generate and control magnetic fields. Writers have since fleshed out his origins and motivations, revealing him to be a Holocaust survivor, speaking of Hitler, whose extreme methods and cynical philosophy derive from his determination to protect mutants from suffering a similar fate at the hands of a world that fears and persecutes mutants.
Too strong of an in-group versus out-group distinction. Not that we can live in harmony, but people like me need to exist more so than others.
He is a friend of Professor X, the leader of the X-Men, but their different philosophies cause a rift in their friendship at times. Magneto's role in comics has progressed from supervillain to anti-hero to superhero, having served as an occasional ally and member of the X-Men, even leading the New Mutants for a time as headmaster of the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. Gifted youngsters. Magneto opposes the pacifist attitude of Professor X and pushes for a more aggressive approach to achieving civil rights for mutants. So he's kind of a nuanced character as well.
Yeah. The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
What a hell of a saying, by the way.
And he's willing to be violent to do so, which is not good.
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask the Joker, he'd say it's great.
Sure.
David Harth of CBR.com called Magneto the X-Men's most iconic villain, writing that tragedy molded Magneto into one of the most well-developed Marvel villains of all time. Few villains have had the same effect on the Marvel Universe as Magneto, and he's changed the way fans perceive antagonists. Pretty high praise.
Yeah.
Ian McKellen has played old Magneto in the films, while Michael Fassbender has portrayed the young version of Magneto in recent films.
And you want to talk about the sheer amount of material coming out from comic books, stories, X-Men storylines. I mean, good God, you can't even keep up.
I just never cared about the X-Men. I don't know.
You know, talk about a world that would be overwhelming to live in. I mean, in X-Men, mutants are not that rare. It's like 1 million mutants, and some of them have pretty strong powers. I mean, truly, if you were a regular person, what's the point in existing?
No, I know.
If you're in
Yeah. I've never read a comic book in my life, but I think Magneto has one of the better names. It's not Darkseid.
Yeah. Dark-Sea-eyed.
He is dark-sided.
Well, how about someone with a dumb name from DC? I don't know if you know this guy.
I don't know. Give it to me.
He's the villain in Teen Titans. Does that
nope,
mean anything?
Not familiar.
Okay. Deathstroke is number 9.
Deathstroke.
He is from the DC Universe, first appeared in 1980's New Teen Titans, Volume 1, number 2. How can you have a Volume 1 that's also number 2?
Good question.
Okay. Assassin and mercenary Slade Wilson. You know, that's the other thing about comics, is all the real birth-given names of villains and heroes are always completely fake sounding. Slade Wilson. He is Deathstroke the Terminator, a product of secret army experiments. Deathstroke is depicted as a ruthless, biologically enhanced mercenary who is widely considered one of the greatest and deadliest assassins in the DC Universe. He serves as the archenemy of Dick Grayson and the Teen Titans, and is also an adversary of other superheroes such as Batman, Green Arrow, and the Justice League. So how come you haven't heard of this guy? He's fought Batman, Buster.
I don't know. I'm looking at him right now. I just haven't never heard of him, never seen him.
Well, in the DC Extended Universe, he's played, film universe, he's played by Joe how do you say it? Manganalia. I can't say it.
Joe Magnolia.
I know who this actor is. I see his name in writing all the time, but I guess I just never hear it said out loud, so I'm having trouble saying it. Joe Manganalia. I can't do it. Whatever, that guy. He plays Deathstroke in the movies.
That guy.
Buster, let's take a break from the guessing. I'm going to tell you what some listeners submitted as their answers.
Okay.
I asked them on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me at @TheNickAmel on Twitter and Instagram. I said, who is the best superhero villain of all time, in your opinion? So,
were you the most mentioned, or?
Yeah, but I took those out. I didn't want to keep saying the wrong answer all the time. Everything Culture on Twitter said Vandal Savage. Do you know that guy? He's a DC villain.
Vandal Savage, no.
So everything you said about your comic book fandom in the beginning, was that all just bullshit? Really, you just read Batman and that's it, right?
Even if that was my defense, then I would have known who Deathstroke was.
Hey Old Boys on Twitter said Dr. Doom.
Okay.
You know him?
Yes.
Okay.
Know of him. I don't know much about him.
Take on the Academy on Instagram said, hate to say it, but probably the Joker. And I'm guessing they hate to say it because it's like the go-to answer for most people, you know?
Yeah.
Irving on Twitter said Magneto. Podtastic Audio on Twitter said, my 4th grade teacher. We got a comedian.
Got him.
Got him. Or her. We don't know.
Got them.
Got them. One of those people that I mentioned, those villains, is on the list that you have not guessed yet.
Dr. Doom. It's got to be on there.
Doom. He is from the Fantastic Four. He's an oldie. He's all the way back in 1962 was his first appearance in the Fantastic Four Volume 1, number 5. The monarch of the fictional nation of Latveria, Doom primarily serves as the arch enemy of Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. I think Reed Richards is Mr. Fantastic. Is that a person?
Yeah. Yep.
He has also come into conflict with other heroes in the Marvel Universe, including Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, the X-Men, the Avengers. Processing vast amounts of knowledge, wealth, technology, and power, Dr. Victor Von Doom is often considered to be one of the most dangerous villains on Earth and throughout the Marvel Universe.
Now, is he a human? Because he looks like a giant robot.
Let me look his ass up.
If he's a doctor, is he a human?
That's a mask. In fact, yeah, okay, I'm going to tell you about it. So it's not a robot. He's a person in a mask. He's a polymath scientist and inventor who possesses a genius-level intellect. Creator Jack Kirby described Doom as being paranoid, wrecked by his twisted face and wanting the whole world to be like him. At one point in the 70s, Kirby drew his interpretation of what Doom would look like under the mask, giving Doom only a tiny scar on his cheek. Due to this slight imperfection, Doom hides his face not from the world, but from himself.
Ooh, I like that. When you find out he actually only has one tiny blemish, but he just can't handle it. It really shows elements of his psychosis.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And he's actually the inspiration for the Darth Vader character in Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you need to put some respect on Dr. Doom's name, Buster.
I do. Not so bad.
And of course, he's wearing the mask in these pictures, and he's got to wear a fucking... Like, he looks cool, and then, he's got a super lame green cape. Because, of course. Capes, I mean, this has been
said before.
What is it
about capes?
Yeah.
Why
are we wearing
did capes suddenly become, like, synonymous with having superpowers?
Because Superman wore the cape. I mean, it's as simple as that.
In general?
Because it looks cool while flying.
Capes existed before, right? Before Superman, like people back in medieval Europe, they wore capes. Why? There had to be an origin to the cape itself.
Now, I could be wrong, but I think the cape, like the original cape, you wear it, it looks like a cape, but you can actually like wrap it around your body almost like a blanket. So maybe
like a robe?
Yeah, like a robe.
A riding robe for horsemen or something?
Yeah, but for a superhero, it seems completely unnecessary and it would just get in the way. But Batman wears one, Superman wears one, Dr. Doom wears one, they all wear them. Not Spider-Man. See, of all the superhero outfits, Spider-Man's is actually the best because not only do you get a nice good look at his tight fucking butt and wiener in the pants, but also, although he's a child, so maybe that's weird for me.
Would you stop? He's in high school.
But also, that suit is super, like, uncumbersome to wear in fights and stuff. It's just very practical.
What is it, The Incredibles, where they make fun of superheroes who have capes because they always get sucked in or they get used to their demise? No capes.
Capes would be just a detriment. They'd get in the way.
I'm looking up history of the cape, and it goes back to 300 BCE. A lot of times, it was just loosely fitting garb that happened to come off the back, used for warmth or just decoration.
More like decoration, am I right?
You got it. Hey, you never told me where Dr. Doom stood on the list.
I did tell you, you just didn't pay attention because you're really not cut out for this. He's number 3.
The listeners are going to know when they hear this episode that you're full trash.
Now, wouldn't it have been better if he's number 4 because his enemies are the Fantastic Four?
Well, unfortunately, people who take these quizzes on Ranker, they didn't have the humility nor the respect to do so.
The humility or the respect. Buster, I have a question for you. Taking a break from supervillains for a second.
No.
When you go to a movie, like at the movie theater, do you ever eat candy?
No.
Is that because you're a fun hater?
I just typically don't eat anything at the movies.
So you think you're better than the rest of us?
I like a drink. I like a little beverage.
You think you're better than the rest of us?
No, it's just not in my habit, not in my routine.
Well, then you're going to want to listen to our newest bonus episode where me and candy expert Daniel, co-host of the Candy is Dandy podcast, we did a movie theater candy draft where we each drafted 8 candies from a list, and we need you, the listeners, to vote on who won the candy draft. You can listen to this TennisPod Plus exclusive bonus episode now on any podcast app. Just go to tennispod.com/plus. Takes 10 seconds to sign up, and you can even get a free 7-day trial. Along with this candy draft episode, there's also more than 60 other members-only bonus episodes right now. You can get them all 100% ad-free. Go to tennispod.com/plus to sign up.
What was the first candy you drafted? Do you remember?
Bunch of Crunch. You got to. It's the best candy there
Bunch
is.
of Crunch.
It's crunchy, comes in a box, it's easy to just pour in your mouth. It's not loud inside the movie.
There's a bunch of it?
There's a bunch of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, my pet peeve about food in a theater, maybe this is one of the reasons why I personally don't indulge in snacks during a movie, is hearing people eat it behind me. Hearing like the hot tamales rattle around in the box, or hearing people squeaky teeth all over gallons of popcorn. I'm just like, come on. Just stop. God, can I enjoy this movie? Especially if there's a quiet scene.
Or a sex scene. There's a sex scene happening and someone's just
annoying
with the popcorn. Yeah.
Or like Nick's epic story that we recently covered on the most successful first date ideas. Mm-hmm. His run-in with a lady who needed a hot dog at the climax of a movie.
And that's an absolute true story. No, there has been no embellishment in that story. And I won't repeat it here.
Hi, listener. It's me, Alex Johns. If you're anything like me, you just can't wait to know the next episode topic of Tinnish Podcast. It keeps us up at night. We toss and we turn, wondering, hoping, dreaming. Fortunately, I found a solution. It's the Tinnish Podcast newsletter. Each month, I get this free newsletter delivered right to my inbox, and it tells me right there what the next month's worth of Tinnish Podcast episodes will be all about. That means that me and the other newsletter subscribers knew today's episode topic about a month in advance. I have more good news. The newsletter also comes with Dr. Buster's exclusive blog, behind-the-scenes updates from Nick, discount codes on Tinnish merch, and more. The best part is this monthly free newsletter can be yours too. Just go to tinnishpod.com/newsletter, enter your email address, and you're in. It's that easy. Again, that's tinnishpod.com/newsletter, or just click the link in the show notes. The only problem I have now is tossing and turning, waiting for the next Tinnish Podcast newsletter.
Have you ever wondered why we call French fries French fries? Or why something is the greatest thing since sliced bread? There are answers to those questions. Everything Everywhere Daily is a podcast for curious people who want to learn more about the world around them. Every day, you'll learn something new about things you never knew you didn't know. Subjects include history, science, geography, mathematics, and culture. If you're a curious person and want to learn more about the world you live in, just subscribe to Everything Everywhere Daily wherever you cast your pod.
Welcome to the I Can't Sleep podcast with Benjamin Boster. If you're tired of sleepless nights, you'll love the I Can't Sleep podcast. I help quiet your mind by reading random articles from across the web to bore you to sleep with my soothing voice. Each episode provides enough interesting content to hold your attention, and then your mind lets you drift off. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. That's I Can't Sleep with Benjamin Boster.
All right, so who's number 8 on this list here?
You know this character very well.
Marvel or DC?
DC. It's not the Joker.
Bane.
Bane. The bane of my existence is number 8.
Knew it.
He is a new boy. He didn't show up till 1993.
Ooh, new boy.
In Batman Vengeance of Bane, number 1.
He's younger than me.
Arch nemesis to Batman. He's a hulking figure fueled by venom. A drug pumped directly to his brain for all his hulking super strength needs. It's interesting that Venom is the drug, and that's also the hero in the the anti-hero in the Marvel universe is named Venom. I wonder if that's on purpose.
So Bane had an injury, and the only way to keep him alive was using this venom?
It doesn't specify an injury or not, but it says that he has venom pumped directly to his brain for all his super strength needs. Possessing a mix of brute strength and exceptional intelligence, Bane is often credited as the only villain to have broken the Bat, defeating him both physically and mentally, because he broke Batman's back. His plan to break the Bat was methodical and, worst of all, patient. Bane realized something his fellow rogues did not. A full frontal assault against Batman is futile. Instead, Bane takes the long way around to weakening the Bat by breaking down Arkham's walls, letting its prisoners infect Gotham once again, and leave Batman on an exhausting 3-month mission to lock them back up. During that time, Bane manages to find the Batcave and wait there to administer the final blow.
So his origin of the venom pumped directly to the brain, I looked up. He was in prison for a long time. He was being tortured. He proclaimed himself as the king of this prison that he was in, and the controllers took note of that, so they forced him to become a test subject for a mysterious drug known only as venom, and that's when he became reliant on it.
So now he has to have it.
Yep.
Kind of like that lady in the movie theater needs to have the hot dog to stay alive.
It makes him super powerful the way he is, but without it, he dies.
It's like you with your Pepto-Bismol.
You are so right, Nick. 100%, no joke. Without the Pepto, I will certainly perish, but it keeps me alive, keeps me flowing, keeps me sane each and every day.
You got that right.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Recently, me and Buster and me and some others did a Tennis Pod live stream on YouTube, and we talked all about Buster's reliance on Pepto-Bismol, so you can go watch that on our YouTube channel.
And after we talk about number one, I'll mention if anyone's wanting to get into Batman comics, because I am the most well-versed in Batman, I'll have some recommendations.
Is that right? Well, Robert Swenson portrayed Bane in the 1997 film Batman and Robin, while Tom Hardy played him in the 2012 film The Dark Knight Rises. I remember going into The Dark Knight Rises, because that's 4 years after The Dark Knight, which is Heath Ledger's Joker. I remember just being so bummed that we were going to go from this is before I saw Dark Knight Rises. I was going to be bummed that we were going to go from the Joker. Like, at the time, so many of us thought the best villain in a movie ever, that portrayal, that character. And now we're going to go to a sequel that doesn't have him in it. It's going to feel less than, right? And I don't put Tom Hardy's Bane up there with Heath Ledger's Joker, but he was still very good, and it didn't feel like this huge drop-off as you're watching the movie.
I agree with everything. Well said. It's not the best of the trilogy, but it ties it up very well.
Mm-hmm. And Tom Hardy, he's Bane in the DC universe, and he's Venom in the Marvel universe, so motherfucker's playing both sides.
And Tom Hardy was so good as Bane, and the voice they gave him, the way they did the mask, and his backstory.
It didn't feel like Tom Hardy.
It was so good.
And I just watched rewatched The Revenant like a week or two ago, and he's the best part of that movie, by far.
He is. He's such a good villain.
He's a great character. Hell of an ass on him, too. Really.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we just got number one left.
Stop kidding around with me, Nick. Lay it on me flat. It's the Joker.
What if Joker was like number 48 or something? The Joker is number one. Could it be anyone else but the Joker? Like that person on Twitter said. The Joker, he's also the oldest villain on this list. First appeared in Batman Volume 1 in 1940. So that's the first Batman comic. As Batman's nemesis, the Joker has been part of the superhero's defining stories, including the murder of Jason Todd, which was the second Robin, and the paralysis of one of Batman's allies, Barbara Gordon. Not Barbara. The Joker has had various possible origin stories during his decades of appearances. The most common story involves him falling into a tank of chemical waste that bleaches his skin white and turns his hair green and lips bright red. The resulting disfigurement drives him insane. Is that the origin story you're most familiar with?
Yeah, I mean, there's many variations, but
I think that's a lot less interesting than what's in the Dark Knight movie, where his skin's not bleached white or anything. He just
it's face paint.
Disfigures himself, or
and he's just kind of a guy who's off kilter.
Yeah,
he doesn't. Yeah.
Well, like Batman, the Joker possesses no superhuman abilities, which, side note, but, Batman and the Joker, this is 1940 when this came out. And that's only, 10 or 15 years after I think it's less than 10 years. I don't know. It might even be like a year or two. I don't know. But Superman is the 30s sometime. My point is, it's not that long after Superman came along, and Superman has every power you can think of. He looks like a superhero. He's got the stupid-ass, bright-ass red-blue suit and the cape. And then you got Batman and Joker coming right after Superman, and they went the complete opposite way. We're going to go no powers on either of them. We're going to go completely dark. and black color schemes. It's just interesting how that played out.
And I looked up Batman #1, the very first issue. It's not the hokey, cheesy Batman you know from the show, like the original show. He looks legit. It's like Batman Brave and the Bold, the gray and blue, and he looks menacing.
Yeah.
It's such a shift from Superman. Yet one more reason I'm not buying your Sign of the Times argument that Superman has any redeeming qualities.
Sign of the Times, it's not just the time period, it's also, you got to keep in mind, Superman was first. What I said earlier, there was no blueprint. Superman was like anything anyone had ever thought of but never put to paper, that's Superman. And now Batman has the hindsight of Superman to guide.
That is also true.
Creation.
They saw how awful Superman was and they're like, nope, we're going in another direction. I love Batman.
But they're both DC. You know, it's not like Marvel.
The bot.
It's trying to go opposite or something.
Well, they did go opposite. Dark, brooding,
no, I'm saying they
did
go opposite. They did, you're right. But I'm saying it was DC that did it, who also does Superman. So it's like the same comic book publisher.
Who was the very first Marvel superhero?
I don't know. Look it up. Spider-Man's pretty old.
The first comic book issued by Marvel was The Human Torch, part of the Fantastic Four in 1939.
Look up the year Superman, since we talked so much about it.
The very first Superman comic, Action Comics #1, 1938.
Okay, I knew it was the 30s, so that's 2 years before the first Batman comic.
Crazy. 1938.
And you know what else is crazy? All this shit is hand-drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Think of how long it would take to make one comic book. It's just insane.
Well, I think about that when I think about cartoons.
Well, that's true.
That's like 20 frames per second back in the day.
Yeah,
that's 20 pictures per second, and they'd make 30-minute long episodes. Get out of here.
Yep, I don't disagree.
I can't believe they did that. I just did the calculations. 30 frames per second for a 90-minute movie. You're looking at 162,000 pictures.
Wow. Before modern technology, that was sitting on a stack of paper this tall, in some office somewhere for every cartoon that was made.
And Bill walks in, forgets to turn the light on, knocks the stack over.
Fucking Bill.
That blows my mind that people did that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
So crazy.
Speaking of crazy, the Joker's crazy. And he has no superhuman abilities. Instead, he uses his expertise in chemical engineering. Now, if his ass isn't chemical engineering expert, then how did he fall on a bunch of chemicals, Buster? Come on.
He's clumsy, thoughtless. He's like the thoughtless professor.
Well, he uses that expertise to develop poisonous or lethal concoctions and thematic weaponry, including razor-tipped playing cards, deadly joy buzzers, and acid-spraying lapel flowers. The 1990s introduced a romantic interest for the Joker in his former psychiatrist Harley Quinn, who became his criminal sidekick and girlfriend before finally escaping their abusive relationship. What do you think of the Harley Quinn angle?
I don't know. It's strange and not my favorite.
Yeah.
It's a little Stockholm syndrome-y.
Although Joker's primary obsession is Batman, he's also fought other heroes, including Superman and Wonder Woman. So that's kind of interesting. The Joker, with no powers, fighting, Superman. I don't know how that works. In his comic book appearances, the Joker is portrayed as a criminal mastermind. He is introduced as a psychopath with a warped, sadistic sense of humor. He became a goofy prankster in the late 50s in response to regulation by the Comics Code Authority, which is around the time that the goofy 60s Batman show came out. Before he returned to his darker roots during the early 70s, although some of the more comedic characterization was kept for many incarnations of the character. So Joker's a character that's kind of been all over the place. He goes through dark, kind of moody, menacing periods. And then in the 50s and 60s, he's more kind of, that wisecracking villain.
Which is funny because I think a lot of people, including myself, would have thought that
it'd go the other
things
way.
Have just gotten less hokey with time. They started out cheesy, light, but they started kind of where they are today and then dipped down into this hokiness and then came back out in the 70s and 80s.
Yep. Joker is considered one of the most recognizable and iconic fictional characters in pop culture. The character's popularity has seen him appear on a variety of merchandise, such as clothing and collectible items, real-world structures, such as theme park attractions, and other shit, too. And he's been portrayed by a whole bunch of A-listers. We got Cesar Romero in the 60s show, Jack Nicholson in the 90s, Heath Ledger in 2008, Jared Leto in the more recent Justice League era movies, and then Joaquin Phoenix. Ledger and Phoenix each earned an Academy Award for their portrayals, and even Mark Hamill has done the voice of the Joker in animation and video games.
I will also say I really equally respect and enjoy Joaquin Phoenix's interpretation and version of the Joker.
Some episode in the past, we had a discussion on which Joker was better. What's your updated opinion on that?
It's hard to pick, but if the shoe had to fall, I'm going to go with Heath Ledger, I think.
Yeah, I think I would too, and I don't know how much of that is like the effectiveness of the performance versus like the nostalgia and the just a remembrance of the appreciation I had the first time I saw it, you know?
So here's the difference for me. Heath Ledger's Joker, he does it willingly and effectively. He's a mastermind. He's doing it well. He knows what he's doing. He pre-plans, and he's kind of like a mean-spirited bully when he does it. Meanwhile, Joaquin Phoenix is just kind of this tortured guy who's doing everything kind of on accident. It's not really premeditated. It's just kind of in the moment reactions to whatever's happening in the environment.
And as far as being truthful to the comics, Heath Ledger's version would be closer, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any denying that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, as far as just like classical acting, probably the better performance. But in terms of nailing a vibe or whatever, however you want to put it, I think Heath Ledger, it's hard to compete with that.
Yeah. I love it. It's timeless.
All right, so these are the top 10 best comic book villains according to 18,000 voters on Ranker.com. In fact, I'm going to start back at number 20. Number 20 is Poison Ivy. 19 is Apocalypse. 18 is Ultron. 17 is Scarecrow. 16 is Kingpin. 15 is Galactus. 14 Green Goblin. 13 Dr. Octopus. 12 the Riddler. Surprised you didn't guess him. 11 is Lex Luthor. And now the top 10. And help me, Buster, as I'm saying them, keep track on your fingers, or however, just how many are Marvel versus DC.
I won't be using my fingers, but I got you.
Number 10 is Carnage from the Marvel Universe. Number 9 is Deathstroke from DC Universe. Number 8 is Bane from the DC Universe. Number 7 is Venom from the Marvel Universe. Number 6 is Loki from the Marvel Universe. Number 5 is Thanos from the Marvel Universe. Number 4 is Darkseid from the DC Universe. Number 3 is Doctor Doom from Marvel. Number 2 is Magneto from Marvel. And number 1, there was no other choice but the Joker from DC.
It is split half and half, 5 Marvel, 5 DC. So how will we determine a winner on this list? It's going to be DC because in the top 3, number 1 and number 2 are both DC. Number 3 is Marvel, 4 is DC.
So 3 out of the top 5 are DC. So how do you feel about that list? I mean, I know you agree with number 1, but do you largely think the list makes sense?
Yeah. There are some surprises, but
Two-Face not being in the top 10 is a surprise.
There's so many comics that it's just my own personal bias, I would have to say. I'm going to second guess any of my inclinations about this list because I probably just got a certain corner of the relevant literature and missed out on Darkseid and Doctor Doom, where other people would be like, oh yeah, I've read 50 comics with Doctor Doom in it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you had some recs for which Batman comics?
My all-time favorite Batman graphic novel is The Long Halloween. It is so good. The story is complex enough. I had to read it 2 or 3 times back to front to put all the pieces together. It's not written for children. I'm not saying it's graphic, but the plot is really dense. And the breadcrumbs are given to you slowly, and it's never fully explained. You kind of have to figure out who the actual main villain was the whole time. Can't recommend that one enough. Just all-time favorite. Behind that, The Dark Knight Returns. This is a lot of the source material for Christopher Nolan's trilogy. And then Batman Year One, the origin story, the recent Batman movie, played by...
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson is based mainly on Batman Year One. Also very good. And if you're curious about the comic book that Heath Ledger kept in his pocket and with him at all times when he was filming The Dark Knight, that would be The Killing Joke, which is known as one of the most graphic, sinister versions of the Joker ever in print.
Yeah.
So check them out, folks. They're good. They're really good. If you think comic books are written for 8-year-olds, many of them are, but not all.
This has been episode 228. Next week, I am back with Stephen Clark, who was most recently on our Zelda episode. I have a list for him. And Buster.
Yeah.
I hope you will join the listeners in listening to that movie theater candy draft episode that I talked about earlier. It's available now.
I will, but I'm going to try to turn down the volume and mute it every time you're about to speak.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can do that pretty successfully, so I only have to hear your sidekick host.
Well, joke's on you because the sidekick host is me. I'm both.
Joke's on you. The Joker was number 1 today. So,
Okay.
what you think about that?
I think we're done here. Buster, thanks for joining me, I guess.
Okay.
And listeners, thank you very much for joining me, listeners. I don't guess.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.
This is a Glass Box Media Podcast.